What up, guys? This is Zach from Flash Out Media. I'm with my partner in crime, man, that guy Harley, man, and we're here to bring you our picks, our predictions, our breakdowns of each fight, starting with first fight on the prelims, going with the main event. And we're gonna get straight into this, man. All we ask is that you like the video, you subscribe to the channel, and you comment your predictions. Before we get into it, man, Harley, you got anything to say? Or get off your chest?
Man, just kind of piggybacking off of what Zach said, man. I'm gonna just kind of go back to last week, just to kind of say something about this card. Last week we broke down a fight night card that didn't have many big names at all. Not a lot of people were familiar. The diehards were, but casuals really weren't familiar with the card last weekend, and that card really delivered. I don't know what you thought about last weekend, so I say that to say this: if last weekend's card delivered, this card should definitely be pretty good as well. And overall, this is just an upward trajectory from here. You got this card, and after this card, you got even bigger fights down the road later on this month and bleeding into next month as well. So yeah, really looking forward to getting into this card, giving you guys our final predictions and breakdowns. Like we say all the time, just please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that like button. Spread the word for all your combat sports friends and family, and help us grow this thing, man.
All right. First fight of the night. Opening up UFC 289, we have Diana Belbita taking on Maria Oliveira. So, looking at this fight, man, it's I think Maria has more ways to win. I think she can strike with Deanna, and I think she could take Deanna down. With that being said, I feel like Maria will be more out of her comfort zone if she gets taken down. We've seen that Maria can lose fights if she gets taken down. Deanna showed, she can take it to the ground, but her submission defense isn't the best. I don't think Oliveira is going to be throwing up much. So if I'm looking at Deanna's path to victory, it is to hold your own on the feet, eventually slow the fight down, shoot the double, shoot the body lock, get it down. And if I'm looking at Maria to win, it's, you know, stand and bang. And if you want to take it to the ground, take it there and hold her down. Um, I got to go with Maria on this one. I think she's going to be able to hold her own and just be the more physical girl here.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with pretty much everything you said. You got Maria Oliveira, who's a long range striker. Gonna have a huge reach advantage. And you got Deanna, who I think, like you said, can hold her on her feet. But to me, her biggest, um, at least if I was in her corner and in her camp, her biggest, um, her best path to victory would be to get it to the ground. But I expect Maria Oliveira to use that big reach advantage, um, uh, to keep Deanna at range. Um, you know, use that big reach advantage, keep her at range, and out strike her from range. And just fight at her pace, keep the fight at her pace, and outstrike her on her way to victory. But like you said, if Deanna can get it to the ground, I think she'll have a chance. Maria, like you said, we've seen her lose fights in the past, especially when she gets taken down, and also she is susceptible to get hit on the feet as well. If you can get inside on her and make it a ugly, dirty fight, get on the inside and touch her to the body and stuff and things of that nature. But I think Deanna's gonna have a hard time getting past the reach advantage. So I see Maria being able to keep it at her range and not strike Deanna on her way to victory.
And yo, keep in mind, Belbita has been striking damn near all her life, karate matches, kickboxing experience. So like, I'm not saying Maria is gonna like
Yeah,
dominate her feet. I think it's gonna be damn near even. And like whoever can like be more physical, take a shot to give a shot. I think that's Maria's game right there. But don't sleep on for Belbita striking. She is a striker. She's good at it. We just seen Maria in the past, be able to handle those type of fights with her reach and her physicality. So very close fight. If I had to say anything, it probably goes the distance or the over. So we both agree on Maria Oliveira, but we see how Belbita can get it done.
Yeah, definitely.
Moving up the card, we have David Dvorak taking on Steve Erceg. This is Steve's debut fight in the UFC, taking it on short notice, about a week or two's notice. Dvorak fought very good competition, has beat good guys. He's coming off a loss to Manel Cap, where it was a close fight. Manel Cap is one of these guys who's rising up in the rankings. Erceg, very good grappler. He's gonna have very good grappling exchanges if it goes there. Big question, can he get it there? Will his wrestling be able to be enough to get Dvorak to the ground? I don't think so. If it does, Dvorak could be in trouble, but I think Dvorak's uh he's got a lot of professional fights. I think Erceg got 10 compared to Dvorak's like over 20. I think experience plays a factor. He has UFC fights already. I think Dvorak is pretty much a lock to get this done. And Dvorak really isn't a guy who finishes fights. I think you see him probably get the decision victory in this one.
Yeah, man, I agree. I'm gonna go with Dvorak in this one as well. I think his striking will be the biggest difference here, along with his experience. Like you mentioned already, Erceg making his UFC debut on a very short notice. If he can get to the ground and use his ground game, he could have he could have a real chance. But I see I think he's a little bit too one dimensional. I see Dvorak being able to stuff the majority of those takedowns. Um, win the striking battle, um, and get a one-sided decision victory. Like you said, Dvorak has a lot more experience than Erceg as well, and I just like I said, I think Erceg is just a little too one-dimensional. If he can get to the ground, I agree with you. He could cause problems, but I think Dvorak's gonna be able to neutralize that and outstrike Erceg on his little victory.
All right, moving up the card, we have Blake Bilder taking on Kyle Nelson. A real interesting close fight for me. Blake Bilder, we seen him beat Shane Young in his debut UFC fight. We seen him, take out Alex Morgan in his contender series fight in the first round. Before that, he's beat decent records. It's not the best records, but it's decent records. It's not like he's fighting bums. You know what I'm saying? In the Shane Young fight, he showed a very good ground game, and he showed that he can get it to the ground. He also displayed some decent striking, landing good jabs. With Kyle Nelson, this is where it gets interesting for me. If you look at Kyle Nelson's record, right, in the UFC is 1-4. Blake Bilder is 1-0. You see that on paper, you're gonna favor Blake Bilder. But if you look at who Kyle Nelson's been losing to, I mean, he has a draw with Doo Ho Choi, although he did get a point taken away, but he was still able to get the fight to the ground and show some good things. Lost to Jai Abert, no shame in that. Lost to Billy Q, no shame in that. Beat Polo Reyes, probably was supposed to. Lost to Matt Sells, lost to Diego Ferreira. These are all good guys. And if you look at his resume before he got into the UFC, man, he's beaten guys like Jonathan Brookins. He's facing guys, 9-5, comma worthy, beating them. You know what I'm saying? These are UFC vets. And he's fighting not garbage cans, right? It's a lot of undefeated guys on his resume. Well, 6 UFC fights compared to one. We've seen Bilder hit some resistance. First, the guy he fought, Shane Young, who was a vet. He just wasn't active. Kyle is active. So I'm gonna go with Kyle Nelson. He is the Canadian. We are in Canada. I feel like he pulls this one off by probably decision on this one.
Yeah, Zach thinks he'll be singing the Canadian national anthem a lot tomorrow, so we'll see. With that being said, man, I gotta go against you right here, man. I think I don't know. I think this fight could go either way. So I definitely do agree with you on that. I'm just gonna go with Bilder here by decision. Kyle Nelson has fought some really good opposition, but I think Bilder is a little more well-rounded. Got good striking to go along with decent wrestling as well. Um, I expect that to be enough to get him a decision victory. But like you said, um, Kyle Nelson's fought really good opposition, fought some legitimate veterans, you know, and even held his own against some, like you said, Doo Ho Choi and guys like that. Um, So yeah, so he could he could get the victor, especially being in Canada. I think that's gonna help him to have the crowd behind him as well. I just think Blake Bilder is a little more well-rounded, and I think he'll be able to mix it up a little more to get that decision maker. But it wouldn't surprise me if it goes the other way. Really, really intriguing fight right here.
There's a lot of close matchups on this card, and that's definitely one of them. I'd probably, I'd probably stay away from that fight if you guys are trying to do something with it. Next fight we have Aiemann Zahabi taking on Aori Lang. Try saying that 10 times fast. Aiemann Zahabi, brother of Faraz Zahabi, who is the legendary trainer of GSP. So he's coming in with a great mind for the sport. Ori Lang is a guy who we see these guys come from China. They're just powerhouses, bro. They're explosive. They have one punch knockout, and they have decent wrestling as well to go with that. I think this is one of the again a close fight, one of the closest fights on the card. We have Sahabi who probably has to fight a perfect fight, and we have Ori Lang who has to land one punch. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go with Sahabi on this one, but Ori Lang is a guy who could put your lights out. He hasn't beat the best guys. Both guys he's beaten in the UFC aren't in there anymore. And every time he took that step up, he was able to get outskilled. I think Zahabi is going to outskill him in this one, but it does only take one punch. This is MMA, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, man, I definitely agree. Like you must have read my notes about this fight before you jumped on here. But yeah, with that being said, another close fight that could go either way, but I agree with you on this one. I'm gonna go with Zahabi as well by decision. Um, so yeah, so I'm gonna go with Zahabi. He's a bigger guy, and I see him being able to outstrike. Um, shoot, what's his opponent's last name? I don't want to say
Ori
his
Lang.
opponent, huh?
Ori Lang.
Orlang or whatever Zach said. Yeah, Orlang. Um, I see him being able to outstrike Orlang. Orlang does have some pop in his hand, and like Zach mentioned already, he can uh close the show with one shot. Um, but with that being said, I think I feel like the hobby is the more technical striker. The more the more technical fighter, technical striker. I think that'll be the biggest difference in this one to get him to win. But like you said, Orlane carries legitimate power. It only takes one for him to get the job done. So we'll see. But I think um, Zahabi is a more technical fighter, and that'll be the difference for him in this one.
No doubt, no doubt. So moving up the card, we have Miranda Maverick taking on Jasmine Judavicius, another Canadian on the card. With Jasmine, man, we kind of know what we're getting right. She's what six fight? No, 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 no. She's three fights in the UFC. She did win her last one. Very good wrestler for women's MMA. Uh, her only loss is to Natalia Silva, and we see what she's doing. So not a bad loss to have. Good wrestler. It's gonna look to take it to the ground on this one. We have Miranda Maverick. She's been pretty established in the UFC now. She is six fights deep into the UFC. She's 4-2. Well-rounded skill set, but if there is a way to beat Miranda Maverick, it is with wrestling, and Judavicius does have that. So you have to keep that in mind. She has a loss to Aaron Blanchfield. Blanchfield was able to get her down. Lost to Macy Barber. Macy Barber was able to slow her down and put her against the cage. So if Jasmine is looking to win this fight, she has to slow it down. But in order to slow it down, she has to strike. And I think that's where Miranda Maverick is never going to let her get going with that. I think Miranda Maverick is going to get the better of the striking department, and she's gonna see the takedowns coming. She's gonna stuff, and don't be surprised if you see Miranda Maverick get takedowns of her own. She is well rounded, right? She only struggles with takedown defense, not takedown offense. So Miranda Maverick by decision on here, and I think it's safe to say that it will go decision. So Miranda Maverick all the way on this one.
Yeah, I agree. If we were picking lock, you know, I think Maverick would be one for me. With that being said, I'm gonna go with Maverick by decision as well. I think she's the more well-rounded fighter. I see her being able to outstrike Jasmine Judavicius as well. And I think Judavicius does have a chance. Like Doc said, her best chance to win is her to, get some of her striking going, even though Maverick is a better striker. Use her striking to set up those takedowns. If she can do that and get it to the ground, she'll definitely have a chance. But I don't think Maverick will let her get it going. You know, Maverick's too well rounded. You know, she can beat you in multiple ways. Oh, we've seen, like Zach said, I hate to, piggyback off of that, but it's true. We've seen Maverick struggle with grapplers in the past, but I just think Maverick's just too seasoned, too well rounded. If Jasudavicius can get her striking going just enough to set up those takedowns, she'll have a chance. But I like Maverick by decision to outstrike Jasudavicius on a rate of victory. I think Jasudavicius could win a round or so in there, but I'm pretty clear on Miranda Maverick in this fight, man.
No doubt, no doubt. So last fight on the prelims, last free fight. If you know, you know. Nassourdine, Imavov taking on Chris Curtis. Both very good guys at 185. Curtis, we see him damn near every month now. Very active
Oh man.
guy. Just dropped a loss to Kelvin Gastelum, but it was a very close fight. And they had a little bit of controversy there where he took a headbutt. So if he doesn't take that headbutt, we don't know what happens there. Imavov coming off a loss to his training partner, Sean Strickland. Sean took that fight on 1 day's notice. Imavov's first time going 5 rounds. And we've seen that, past the second, third round, he started getting tired. And if I do remember, I did pick Strickland to win that fight. If you know, you know. So
Um,
my
I see what he did here.
bad, bro. I had to throw a little salt there. But
I see
uh
what he did here. Go
I,
ahead.
I
That's your moment. Go ahead.
I think this fight, man, it's really if Imavov, there's no secret. Imavov's gonna start fast. Can he maintain that fast pace? And it's gonna be up to Chris Curtis. How quick is it gonna take for him to get his reads and get it going? Because if it's round two, round three, we don't really know with these judges, you know what I'm saying? So he has to start fairly early, in the first round, at least at the end of the first round. He has to get going. If Imavov can change it up, we know he can strike. We know he has wrestling. If he can play the MMA game and make Chris Curtis think a little bit more, because if you're only given one thing for Chris Curtis to think about, he's going to make those reads and pick you apart, and it's going to be easier for him to pick up the pace. So it's really if Imavov can maintain it and if Curtis can start it early, I got to go with Curtis. He's more active. He has a training partner who his team, already beat. I got to go with Chris Curtis on this one.
Yeah, man, I agree. Before I dive into the full prediction of this fight, like you said, Sean Strickland's coming off a victory against Imavov in his last fight, and is a main training partner to Chris Curtis. So I think that's gonna. I mean, obviously Sean can't get in there and fight for him, but I mean, hell, it's still a good advantage to have coming in a fight like this. Um, my biggest question is, I think Imavov is plenty good to beat Chris Curtis. Won't you agree? Just on paper, I think he's
He
got
has
the
some
skills
skills.
and he's plenty good. Yeah. My biggest question is, can Imavov, I can't talk, Imavov, can he maintain a solid pace for 3 rounds? Does he have the cardio to go a full 3 rounds, 15 minutes, and maintain a solid pace for 15 minutes? And so far in his career, he's had a lot of quits. So right now, I would say no. You look at Chris Curtis' last fight. Yeah, he took a very close loss to Kelvin Gastelum. You mentioned the headbutt. Without the headbutt, I think Chris Curtis. Now we don't know for sure, but if you take away the headbutt, I think Chris probably ends up winning that fight. Probably, you know. And he was. I say that to say this. That was a high-paced fight, back and forth, heavy striking exchanges. It was a war, and Chris was there for 15 minutes. Win, lose, or draw, he didn't back down. He didn't stop throwing. He didn't constantly kept putting those combinations together and staying in the fight. Well, they evolved. We've seen them fade multiple times in the past. So, um, so with that being said, tricky fight here. It is a tricky fight. Could go either way, but I'm leaning towards Chris Curtis by decision. I see his striking being the biggest difference and his cardio being the two biggest differences in this one. Um, I see Curtis being able to outstrike him and wear on his gas tank as the fight goes on to get the win. But if Imavov uh, can get the fight to the ground and keep Chris there and just maintain a solid pace for 15 minutes, he's got a legitimate chance. He's also well rounded, like you said. He's not just a one trick pony. He's got striking as well. Two biggest keys for Imavov: his cardio and being able to mix in his grappling. If he's got good cardio and he's able to grapple, he can definitely get the win. But I just think Chris, you know, will be able to wear on him as the fight goes on, and his striking will be a little more crisp to get him the victory. But very, very entertaining and interesting fight right here to close out the prelims.
I definitely think this fight should be on the main card, by the way.
Absolutely. And shit, that was the second pay-per-view in a row that they put Chris Curtis in a featured prelim. I thought Curtis and Gastelum should have been on the main card and on for Chris's last fight as well. So I don't know if they just giving Chris Curtis the shaft or what goes into this, but I agree. Two fights in a row. And I think Chris Curtis should be on the main card.
I can tell you why he's not on the main card because opening up the main card next is keyword the Canadian Marc-Andre Barriault taking on Eryk Anders. I think they wanted to put a hometown guy opening up the main card, so that's why I
Oh,
think.
absolutely. Yeah.
So Marc-Andre Barriault, cardio king, well-rounded guy, can strike, and has a decent ground game to go with it. His UFC career didn't start off too good, but now I think training with Cliff, he's really made those changes. He's training with the best in the world on daily, and we really have seen Marc-Andre Barriault 2.0. He's coming off a win over Julian Marquez that was really, really impressive. And he's taking on Eryk Anders, former Division I college football player. And with Anders, we know we're gonna get one thing. He's looking to knock you out, or he's looking to take you down and knock you out on the ground. You know what I mean? He doesn't have the best gas tank. Barriault's known for a gas tank, and if you look at Barriault's losses, uh, you know, dating back to like a year or two ago, the only guys that are really giving him trouble are specialists. You look at Anthony Hernandez, specialist, right? He's looking to wrestle you, wrestle, 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 wrestle. We look at Chidi Nkwani, specialist Muay Thai guy, right? You look later back into his career, he's losing to guys like Jocko, Andrew Sanchez, Jim Young Park, but those are by decision. He's not getting finished. And Eryk Anders is usually a guy who has to get the finish to get you out of there. He doesn't have the best gas tank. I think Barriault's going to be able to survive, weather the storm, and end up, either getting a decision victory over Anders or getting a third round TKO over a very, very exhausted Anders. If Anders does win, it has to be early. It has to be round one. It has to be early round two. And I just don't think his gas tank's going to uphold that. So I got to go with Marc-Andre Barriault on this one.
Yeah, I agree, man. I'm gonna go with Burial by decision. Um, I see Burial being able to early the weather storm by um by Anders, and he's literally been able to wear down Anders um with his pressure and cardio as the fight goes on. Um, and and uh and being able to outstrike him on the way to victory to get a decision. I agree though. If if he can weather the early storm, really put a lot of pressure on him, and wear it down, he could get a stoppage probably in the third round, back half of the third round. Um, like we both said, I agree though. I'm not counting Anders out in this fight at all. He's just gonna have to probably stop Marc-Andre Barriault and probably have to do it early. He's gonna come out super explosive, super fast, put a ton of pressure on Barriault to start the fight, and I think he'll have his moments early on. So, like I said, if Marc-Andre Barriault wants to win, he's gonna have to weather the storm, and I think he'll be able to do that. We've seen Anders in the past just go just wear himself down too early in the fight. He has nothing left through the second and third round. So yeah, I like Barriault by decision. I think his cardio, his pace, and his striking will be the biggest difference. Um, and I expect Anders to come out strong, but I just think he'll fade as the fight moves on.
All right, moving up to the next fight. My prediction for fight of the night for sure, Dan Ige taking on Nate the Train Landwehr. Um, Man, both guys are very durable, very good. But one thing they do have in common, they do start off a little slow. They let the other guy get going, and then they make their reads towards the end of the first round. And they're very good at it. That's where they had success. So I think this is going to be a chess match, and then once the chess pieces are gone, they're just gonna go to war, man. And I can't wait for it. We look at a guy like Dan Ige, man. He's fought very good competition. He's had very close fights with very good competition. If I'm looking at the total fights he has in the UFC, he has 13 fights in the UFC. That's a lot of experience right there. Nate the Train might not have the most fights in the UFC, but he was fighting very good competition in KSW, fighting for the belts and being the guy fighting the hometown guys out of there. You know what I'm saying? So he has experience as well, even though it might not show on, with 6 UFC fights compared to over 10, he does have experience. So this is a very even fight. I think both guys have chins, so I think this is gonna go the distance. And it's really whoever's gonna get started earlier. I think Ige is gonna get started earlier. I think his skill set's a little bit well-rounded, more well-rounded. I think he can take the fight down. But with Ige getting the fight down, Landwehr does have very good submissions, so that's something you have to watch for as well. Standing up, both guys have knockout power. Both guys make reads. Extremely, extremely close fight, but I have to go with Ige on this one just based upon I think having more of a skill set. But I could see this definitely being a split decision.
Yeah, very close fight. And I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna just throw this out there right now. I'm leaning towards D game. That's who I'm gonna pick. But who do I want to win? I want Nate the Train to win. I'm gonna just throw it out there. The fan in me wants Nate the Train to win. Um, but I do agree. I think there's another very close fight that could go either way. Very exciting fight right here between two guys with similar skill sets and two guys that are pretty different, pretty pretty well, pretty. They've seen a lot in their UFC career. Um, with that being said, I am gonna go with Danny Day here. Fight could go either way. Um, I see Ige being able to catch, um, being able to catch Nate on the feet and to win a decision. Um, I do see it going the distance. I love Nate, and I think he'll be there. I just think Nate will be there to be hit more often, and I think that'll cost him in this fight. Um, but he does have a solid chin. Both guys have solid chin. But if you look back on some of Nate's previous fights, even though he does have a good chin, he kind of is more susceptible of getting hit and kind of lose his chin up in the air. If you notice. And I think that'll cost him in this fight. I don't see him getting stopped. It'll go the distance. I think Nate will definitely have his moments. Either guy, whoever wins, I see it being a very close decision. So I see both guys having their moments in this fight. I just think that Ige is a little more crisp, a little more technical, and I think that'll be the biggest difference. But like you said, I'm not sleeping on either guy. Nathan Train can definitely pull out pull off this victory. And I'm looking forward to seeing this fight, man. I think it'll be a good one.
All right, moving up the card, we have another Canadian on it, Mike Malott, looking to make it 3-0 in the UFC, taking on Adam Fugitt, 1-1 in the UFC, coming over a very good win over Kinoshita. Showed he has pop in his punches and showed he has good takedowns. And if he takes you down, it's a problem. Thing with Mike Malott, man, all of his fights, including his loss, have all been in the first round. So that's one thing to keep in mind if this goes past the first round. This is uncharted territory for Mike Malott. Adam Fugitt, like I mentioned before, he's well rounded. He has power in his punches. But I think a guy like Mike Malott, man, that first round is so damn dangerous because he's so explosive. He can wrestle. He has good submissions and he has knockout power. I think the UFC, putting him on that main card spot before the Oliveira and Dariush fight, we see what they're trying to do. They're trying to get a guy to be, one of the faces of Canadian MMA. And we're gonna see if he can be that because Adam Fugitt is no joke. You give him an opening, he's gonna take it. But I think Mike Malott is gonna give him those openings, and I think he does another first round finish on this one.
Yeah, man, I agree. I expect a fun, striking heavy matchup here. I'm going with Malott by stoppage. I think he's the more. I think he's too powerful and explosive for Fugit. Um, I also think. I also think Malott will have the grappling advantage as well. But Fugit has pulled off some upsets in the past. We've covered Fugit before. We've seen what he can do. He's gone in as an underdog before, and it hadn't phased him. You know, he's been in there, done his thing, and got the victory. So Fugit definitely gonna be live for an upset. Um, so I'm not sleeping on Fugit. I just like Malin in this one. Like you said, he can strike. He's got good power. He can grapple. None of his fights have got down to the first round. Super explosive. It's set up for him to win. It's in his home country. Everything's leaning towards Malin in this one. So yeah, I like Malin to get the stoppage on the feet. But Fugit for the dog before and he's come through. So hey, this is another fight that I'm really intrigued to see. Do I think Malin gets the win? Yeah. Do I think Malin stops him? Probably so. But don't sleep on Adam Fugit, guys. Don't sleep on Adam Fugit. I mean, he's been in this spot before, and he's come through. So
All right, moving up to what a lot of people are calling the real main event of the card. We have Charles do Bronx Oliveira taking on Beneil Dariush. You know, we seen Dariush being very vocal that the UFC promises him a title shot if he wins. So a lot riding on this fight, man, especially in the lightweight division. We have do Bronx. I think his path to victory in this one is to hurt Dariush on the feet and
yeah,
scramble to a sub. I think he has the
yeah,
power and finishing ability to get Dariush out of there with his submissions and his striking combined. I think Dariush has to fight a damn near perfect fight, and you got to try to break Dubronx, which is very hard. And the only one that's been able to do it in recently is Islam, the champ. So if you want to fight the champ, you got to do what the champ's doing, man. You got to break Dubronx, and I think the distinguishing factor for Dariush, compared to other guys, is that he's not going to be scared to go to the ground with Oliveira.
yep.
He's gonna
Mm-hmm.
be willing to engage, and you've seen Islam was more than willing to engage, and you've seen a guy like Oliveira. You know, when he's to the ground with a guy like Justin Gaethje, Tony Ferguson's, all of them, he's on the ground hurt. He's comfortable on the ground because these guys aren't, right? You know what I mean? Even if he's in a bad position, he's gonna scramble out of it. With Dariush, he thrives on the ground. With guys like Islam, they thrive on the ground. So now your
Mm-hmm.
comfort zone is taken away, and they're beating you at what's supposed to be your game, which does something to you mentally. And I think we're gonna see that happen with Dariush. He's gonna if he doesn't get hurt on the feet, he's gonna look to engage on the ground, look to get Oliveira tired, look to break him down. I know Oliveira doesn't break easy anymore, but I think if you can get it round 2 and 3, I think you'd be all right. I like to see Dariush win a decision victory in a very close fight on paper, man. I think Oliveira does have the capability of putting Dariush out. Dariush has been knocked out before, has been submitted before, so keep that in mind. But Dariush by decision on this one.
Hell yeah. I'm gonna just say here before I give my prediction. This is a fight right here where I wish you wouldn't even break this fight down because it could go so many different ways in my opinion that I just want to sit back and be a fan. I just don't even want to. You get what I'm saying? That's what these are one of the fights where if we wouldn't be doing this, if we wouldn't have to do this for our audience, I wouldn't even touch this fight
Great.
as far as even a breakdown because it's just so many different possibilities. Um, with that being said, I agree with literally with everything you said. I'm gonna go with Darius by decision as well. Um, fight literally could go a million, so many different ways, and either ways for both guys. Um, I do think Darius is a little bit better on the ground. He can hang with Oliveira on the feet as well. Um, I see Darius getting the better of the grappling exchanges and doing enough. on the feet to get the victory. With that being said, when I say I see him doing enough to get on the feet to get the victory, I do think Oliveira is the better striker, and Oliveira's best path is to keep it on the feet and, like Jack said, hurt Dariush. But Dariush has enough strike. Dariush is not one dimensional. Is what I'm trying to say. So
Let
I
me
think he has enough. Huh?
let me ask you this, man. Um, this is how I feel about Dariush's grappling compared to Oliveira. Oliveira's jiu-jitsu, I feel is they're pretty close. You might have a little bit of an edge for Oliveira, but Oliveira's game is based on, a lot of it being on his back. And at a certain level, I feel like Dariush might not be on the same skill level as Oliveira, but he has the wrestling and capability to be on top, if that makes sense. I don't necessarily know
Yeah,
if he has better ground game than Oliveira, because that's a tall task, but I feel like he knows enough, just like when he fought Gamrot, to survive those positions and, you know what I'm saying?
yeah. That's a better way to put it. Yeah. But my point is, Dariush's ground game is plenty good enough, and like you mentioned already, Dariush's bread and butter is his ground game. That's his bread and butter. That's what he's most comfortable with. So that's the same case with Oliveira. You know, they're both that's both their bread and butter. Two different styles on the ground, but their ground games are their bread and butter. But Dariush is not gonna be scared to go there, and I think that'll be the really I think that'll be the biggest factor in this fight because, like you mentioned already, guys have gotten hurt. Guys have hurt Oliveira in the past, and they don't even go to the ground with him. They let him back up
Right.
because they're so self conscious and so worried about themselves. When Oliveira's on his back, he's happy. He's happy. But Dariush, say if Dariush is able to hurt him on the feet or get him to the ground, either way, with a takedown, he's thriving in that scenario.
Definitely.
That's what he wants to do. That's his home. So I agree. I think that now don't get me wrong. Would I be completely shocked if Oliveira wins by submission? No. I won't be shocked if either one wins by submission. Because they're both very good on the ground. But I think Oliveira's best best uh path to victory is keeping on the feet, trying to hurt Dariush and see if he can get him out of there with his striking, man. But this fight can go either way. Super stoked for this fight. I'm gonna go with Dariush by decision, but I wish this fight was 5 rounds. That's another story for another day. But damn, I wish this fight was 5 rounds. I think it'd be a high level fight and huge huge implications for the winner in the lightweight division.
Most definitely, most definitely. Moving up to the official main event, we have Amanda Nunes taking on Irene Aldana. I'm gonna get right into this. If Amanda Nunes doesn't lose that fight to, Pinier, we're not even talking about this fight being close, right? Nunes, was before that loss being called the GOAT of MMA by like, people like Joe Rogan, like the best right now, pound for pound. And you could definitely
And,
say
and,
that.
and men's or women's, by the way.
Right,
But
for both. You know what I'm saying? That's how much of a tear she was on. With Pena, she looked human, but in the rematch, man, I think she proved that, she was just off that night, and if you're off with a dog like Pena, she's gonna take advantage of it. The only way I see Irene Aldana winning is if Nunes is off. It's kind of like the Shevchenko and the Grasso fight, right? And Shevchenko was doing fairly good leading up to that fight, It was still competitive, but she made one mistake that she shouldn't have threw, the spinning back kick. And Grasso and her team were prepared for her to make that mistake and capitalize off of it. I guarantee you, Aldana's team is prepared for Nunes to make mistakes. It's going to be up to Nunes to not make those mistakes and really, really be the Nunes that's took out Harlem, that took out Rousey, all these top girls. You know what I mean? And if you
real
look
solid
at
one.
if you look at who Aldana's losing to, Nunes is destroying these girls, man. She lost to Raquel Pennington. You know, Raquel took a very bad loss against Nunes. Who else did she lose to? There's another girl, Holly Holm. You know what I'm saying? She loses a decision to Holly Holm. We seen what, Nunes did to Holly Holm. So you can't really say there's any younger fighter in this. They're both the same age at 35. We can't say Nunes ain't hungry anymore. She proved that in her rematch versus Pinier. I think we're gonna see vintage Nunes in this one get a finish. But Aldana is tough.
Yeah,
If you give her something, she is going to take it. Keep that in mind as well.
yeah, man, I agree. I'm gonna go with Nunes by stoppage as well. Um, but I think this fight can be interesting. Um, be more interesting than people think. Aldana has solid striking and good cardio as well. If Aldana can push Nunes into the later rounds and wear on her core on her gas tank, like Pena was able to do, she'll have a chance. Um, I just see Nunes being too big, too strong, too explosive for Aldana. Just better, I I hate to say this about any fighter, but just Nunes, man, she's just the better all around fighter than really anybody in women's MMA. I mean, even her previous losses, Nunes is just the women's the goat of women's MMA. Even though she lost to Qileng. I mean, yeah, she lost to Juliana, and that's awesome. Juliana went in there, she wasn't scared. She took the fight to her, wore her down, and got her out of there. You know, so props to her. Nobody's been able to do that in years, even close to being able to do that to Amanda Nunes. But but yeah, um, Nunes will definitely have the advantage on the ground as well. Um, she's just an overall better fighter. So I like Nunes to probably um, win by TKO, something of that nature. But like I said, don't sleep on Irene Aldana. Do I think Nunes will win? Yeah, but just don't sleep on Aldana, man.
No doubt, no doubt, man. So that about covers the whole card, man, from top to bottom. We only undecided on one fight, but all of these fights are very close. The majority of them are very good fight card. So we're gonna close this thing out. Like, subscribe, comment, and we'll be back for the recap.